over the course of the last several months, I have been trying desperately to get people to pay attention to the FCC's attack on net neutrality, because if they do in fact gut net neutrality, then the internet will be destroyed. I mean, we're looking at a completely different type of internet, but I mean, I'm only one person. The Humanist Report is only so big, even though we have 100,000 subscribers, that's just not enough people to make a difference. So thankfully, we recently got an ally in John Oliver who decided to cover net neutrality and the FCC's recent attack on net neutrality. Now, the great thing about this is credit where credit is due, John Oliver did an excellent job covering net neutrality last time in 2015. So even though I've had my disagreements with John Oliver in the past, I think that what he's doing here is great, and I'm on his side 100% when it comes to this issue. So he did a news segment about how the FCC is trying to kill net neutrality, and the FCC, after this segment, was inundated with tons of calls, so much so that it actually crashed their website. Now, what's funny about this is, you would think that a government agency like the Federal Communications Commission would be excited at the prospect of people, calling in, because that's democracy. However, what the FCC painted this as was an attack. So since John Oliver galvanized a bunch of his viewers to call in and send their comments to the FCC, well, they decided to whine about this and say that we were attacking them. Network World explains, after John Oliver urged viewers of HBO's Last Week Tonight to fight for net neutrality again and post comments to the FCC's website, people were not able to submit comments because the site turned to molasses. The FCC blamed the problem on multiple DDoS attacks. These were deliberate attempts by external actors to bombard the FCC's comment system with a high amount of traffic to our commercial cloud host. These actors were not attempting to file complaints themselves. Rather, they made it difficult for legitimate commenters to access and file with the FCC. Now, they argue a DDoS attack at the exact same time as Oliver's viewers would have been leaving comments? The last rally cry by Oliver resulted in such a flood of would-be commenters that it crashed the FCC comments site. So it doesn't seem outside the realm of possibilities that his newest plea for every internet group to come together and tell the FCC to preserve net neutrality and Title II could also crash the site. That's something that I'd like to call democracy. However, if you're the FCC, you like to play the victim and call that an attack, when that's not an attack. Now, furthermore, if this was in fact a DDoS attack and the FCC's website was targeted, this doesn't necessarily mean that the FCC was the victim. It would also mean that consumers of the internet are the victims, because as you'll remember, it was the public that was prevented from commenting. So if there was a DDoS attack, how do we know that it didn't come from the FCC or an ally of the FCC, so that way they can stop the public from sending comments on net neutrality? I mean, how do we know that? But I mean, that's not even the implication here. They're claiming that they were viciously attacked, basically, by people who just flooded the website because they wanted to crash the website. They didn't have legitimate concerns about net neutrality. They just wanted to be bad actors and crash the FCC's website. But if that really is the case, they can easily prove it. So as Fight for the Future puts it, the FCC should immediately release its logs to an independent security analyst or major news outlet to verify exactly what happened last night. The public deserves to know, and the FCC has a responsibility to maintain a functioning website and ensure that every member of the public who wants to submit a comment about net neutrality has the ability to do so. Anything less is a subversion of our democracy. And look, let's put two and two together here. This isn't the first time that the FCC played the victim, because FCC's chairman Ajit Pai recently reversed an expansion of the lifetime subsidy, which was a subsidy that was important because it made the internet more affordable for certain low-income families that qualified for the subsidy. So after receiving backlash for screwing over poor people and making the internet less accessible to them, he penned an op-ed in Medium calling out the media's sensationalism over the story. No, that's not what this is about, Ajit. What you did was you did something bad and we didn't like it and we called you out for it. That's what happens if you try to screw over the public. So, I mean, look, if you put two and two together, this guy is trying to play the victim. He is a master in obfuscation of the truth. He lies like no one else. I mean, if you listen to him speak and you didn't know better, you would think that he's in favor of net neutrality, because he refers to gutting net neutrality as keeping the internet free and open. That's literally the language and the rhetoric that he's using, but that's the complete opposite of what's actually happening. So I'm glad that we're finally paying attention, because you all know I've tried really hard, and the story just wasn't gaining the steam that it needed to. But thankfully, with John Oliver's dedication, of this issue to an entire segment, this helped. And so I would advise other liberal comedians like Samantha Bee, like Bill Maher, rather than berating Bernie Sanders supporters, if you do something like this, if you get on our side when it comes to the issues that we're fighting for, you can do a huge service to your country and help protect democracy in America. Because with the internet, this isn't just about the internet. The internet is crucial to democracy. I mean, we saw how without the internet, I don't know how the Arab Spring would have been catalyzed. So the internet is essential to a democracy in the age of technology, and we've got to protect it. So I'm glad that John Oliver did this. I feel much better now that more Americans are paying attention, and the fact that the website crashed even, it drew in more eyes to the story. So I think that this is a win-win for anyone who's fighting to maintain net neutrality.
Support this podcast by joining the independent progressive media revolution today at humanistreport.com.